All right, today we are talking about something major in carnivore diet, this dilemma that so many people have, and it's called boredom. There are so many people who jump into the carnivore diet train, and at first you're loving the steak, it's delicious. You're starting to feel all of these changes, you're going through the motions of the ocean, and then bam, it just feels like you are eating the same thing every day, which you are, right? So it's easy to fall into the rut and it's easy to start to want to grab foods that maybe you shouldn't be eating because you're bored on the carnivore journey. And I know that you will hear a lot of people say that it's impossible to get bored once you're used to eating steak every day. That's all you ever want. But I truly do believe that everybody is different. There's no one size fits all. Your journey is your own. And so if you are feeling like this, I want you to know that you are not alone. Don't worry. There are many people who feel this way as well. So I've got some tips for you to keep it fresh, fun, without needing to go crazy in the kitchen. First off, I want to say thank you for tuning into the Kristin Carrera podcast. I am your host, Kristin. Welcome back if you've been following along. And if you are new, please make sure to hit that subscribe button, like, follow along, and comment. I love to hear if you are new to carnivore. Are you thinking about starting carnivore? Have you been on carnivore? Any questions that you have, please leave them below in the comments. So when I first started, I definitely could not even fathom the thought of eating steak. I could not even smell it. That's how bad it was. And that can happen to you when you're first starting out. Do not worry. You don't need to eat only steak. I mixed it up. I had eggs in the morning. I mixed up the different cuts of meat, right? So now I still like to change it up. I go outside that classic cut of beef and I am talking falda, which is flank steak, oxtail, lamb chops, which I found absolutely delicious when I was doing the lion diet. And they're flavorful and yet totally different than just eating steak and ground beef. And let's not forget chuck roast cut into pieces with my homemade beef broth. Absolutely delicious. These are all things that bring something unique to your table where you don't feel like you're eating the same thing every single day. I also love making carnivore tacos. And yes, they are delicious. I personally have dairy on my journey. If you are just starting carnivore, I recommend that you don't do dairy and you don't add the carnivore tacos in. But if you are implementing dairy, then the carnivore tacos that I love to make are fabulous. I have the recipe actually over on my Instagram on A Girl's Kitchen. You can go check that out. The link is in the description. There are so many recipes out there where you can get fancy on making your own taco shells with cheese. But for me, I like to keep things simple. I have 3 kids. My life is very busy. I work from home. I do the podcast, right? I don't have time really to try to make my own tacos for the amount of people that we have in my family. So my go-to is the egg life wraps. I love them. They're absolutely perfect. And yes, it is not the same as a corn tortilla because I do love my Mexican food, but it does get that craving out of the way of wanting a taco, and it's all within your carnivore journey. That is the best part. So I have the links to the wraps that I use. They do not sponsor me, but I just like to share what I do find and what tastes good. So go check that out. Now, if you're craving something even more creative and you do want to spend a little bit more time in the kitchen, let's talk carnivore pizza. Yes, you heard that right. I do make my own carnivore pizza. I absolutely love it. It's a staple here in the house, especially on UFC nights. So when we pretty much watch every UFC fight, right? So a lot of times it's like every weekend. And our go-to was always ordering pizza. And when I first started on the carnivore diet, it was a little hard because it became this habit and kind of like this date night with my husband when the kids would go to sleep that we would do. And we couldn't do that anymore. So making this carnivore pizza definitely helped bring back those old feelings. And I know food is fuel, but you know what? I'm Hispanic. I love food and it hits right here in the heart. So I love my carnivore pizza. I have a recipe that you can go check out. I'll link it for you, but you can also go just check it out in my main podcast page where I give you the recipe. So now let's move on to broth. Bone broth is very, very healthy, but if you are like me, I have a high histamine intolerance, and so I cannot eat bone broth, but I love to add beef broth, homemade beef broth to my meals, either just drinking the broth or adding some of the meat that I make along with it inside, kind of like a soup, and it's absolutely delicious. So that is another option that you can make. With the flank steak, la falda, I make it in my Instapot. You don't need to do anything but season it with salt. If you are using some other seasonings like garlic or onion powder, that is it. That is all I use. Fill it up. If I have beef broth already, I fill some of the pot up with beef broth, if not with water. Let it cook down, and it just creates your own beef broth with the meat. I rip it up, and it's a delicious, delicious meal. So you can never go wrong also with cuts like different cuts of steak or chicken thighs, chicken wings, okay? These are go-to easy staples. So switch it up. Do not be afraid to change it up. And also meals that are very easy to make. My chicken thighs, I make them in my little toaster oven. I make sometimes the chicken in the air fryer. Okay, so there are easy ways that you can make these dishes where it's not going to be time consuming and you're not going to be in the kitchen all day, and yet still have a delicious meal to eat where you do not feel like you are being so repetitive every day of your life and it just becomes so boring. Okay, so keep those ideas in mind, and there you have it. If you are stuck in that boring meat rut, remember it's all about changing your cuts, finding simple but tasty alternatives in like the carnivore tacos that I talked about, and working around your personal needs. Okay, so stay creative, make your carnivore experience something that you look forward to every day, because that is what's going to help you be more consistent in long-term goals of being on carnivore, depending where you are on your journey. If you plan to stay on carnivore forever, whether you want to transition to animal-based, wherever you are, wherever your needs are, this will help you stay consistent, changing it up if you are feeling like it is really becoming bored. And again, check out the video, that awesome carnivore pizza recipe that I talked to you about. I'll link that below with the full podcast and recipe. So I hope that you have a beautiful day, and I will see you again on the next podcast.